Welcome back to Char TV Lads, one of the most haunting legends that has captivated humanity for centuries, the Siren. You may have heard tales of beautiful, otherworldly voices drifting over the water, of figures half seen in mist, drawing sailors and travelers to their doom. These aren't just stories from the ancient world. Tales of sirens and their hypnotic, deadly songs have woven their way through myth and folklore, leaving an unsettling mark that persists to this day. Tonight, we're diving deep into these unsettling accounts. Some of these stories come straight from age-old folklore, while others are modern tales, and there's a reason we're sharing these stories now. Whether real or myth, the influence of the siren legend remains as powerful as ever, and its impact is impossible to ignore. And hey, we're almost at 1,000 subscribers. Every single one of you who joins us on this journey means so much, so if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. This is just the beginning. There's so much more ahead as we explore the strange, the spooky, and the unknown together. Now, turn down the lights, settle in, and let's dive into some terrifying siren stories. Gather round the fire, my friends, and let the dancing flames illuminate the shadows as I weave tales from the depths of ancient lore. These are stories whispered through the ages of beings both enchanting and malevolent, whose haunting melodies have lured countless souls to their doom. Tonight we delve into the eerie legends of the sirens, creatures whose songs beckon the unwary into the abyss. The sirens of Greek mythology. In the mists of antiquity, when gods walked among men and heroes sailed the vast unknown seas, there lived creatures of such allure and peril that even the bravest trembled at their mention, the sirens. Picture a ship cutting through the wine dark waters of the Mediterranean, its sails billowing under a waning moon. Odysseus, the cunning hero of Ithaca, stood at the helm, his heart heavy with the weight of his long journey home. The sea was calm, but an unsettling stillness hung in the air, a silence that seemed to whisper of unseen perils. "Captain," murmured one of the sailors, his eyes fixed on the horizon where a jagged island loomed. "They say this is the domain of the sirens." Odysseus nodded solemnly. He'd been warned by the sorceress Circe of the deadly enchantresses, whose voices could ensnare the minds of men, drawing them to a fate worse than death. Determined to hear their song yet survive their lure, he ordered his men to fill their ears with beeswax. "Bind me to the mast," he commanded, "and no matter how I plead, do not release me." As they neared the island, a faint melody began to drift over the water, a sound so hauntingly beautiful it made the very air quiver. The song grew clearer, each note weaving into the next, a tapestry of desire and despair. Odysseus strained against his bonds as the voices called his name, promising him knowledge beyond mortal ken, the secrets of the universe laid bare. "Untie me!" he shouted, his voice raw with longing. His eyes were wild, tears streaming down his face as the siren's song pierced his soul. But the crew, deaf to the melody, rowed on, their faces set and pale. From the mist-shrouded cliffs the sirens emerged, figures of ethereal beauty with eyes that gleamed like stars and wings that shimmered in the gloom. Their voices rose in a chilling crescendo, each word a dagger of temptation. "Odysseus, stay with us," they sang. "Taste the sweetness of eternity. Lay down your burdens and embrace the bliss we offer." But as the ship sailed beyond their reach, the sirens' voices faltered, their allure fading into a wail of frustration. The waters around the island churned, revealing the wreckage of ships and the bones of those who had succumbed, a graveyard of lost souls lured by the deadly chorus. Odysseus collapsed against the mast, his body trembling, the echoes of the song lingering in his mind like a fading dream. He had gazed into the abyss and returned, but the memory of the siren's call would haunt him forever, a reminder of the thin line between desire and destruction. The Laureli of the Rhine, Germany. Turn now to the heart of Germany, where the mighty Rhine River carves its way through dark forests and steep cliffs. Among these cliffs stands a towering rock known as the Laureli, and it is said that on moonlit nights a spectral figure appears, a maiden whose beauty is surpassed only by the sorrow that shrouds her. Centuries ago, the Laureli was a mortal woman, betrayed by a lover who left her heartbroken. Consumed by grief, she climbed to the peak of the rock, her golden hair cascading over her shoulders like a river of liquid sunlight. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she cast herself into the swirling waters below, her final cry swallowed by the rushing currents. But death did not bring peace. Her spirit remained tethered to the rock, transformed into a siren whose song beckoned to the souls of men. Imagine a lone boatman navigating the treacherous bends of the Rhine, the mist curling around him like ghostly fingers. The river is restless, whispering secrets in a language only the wind understands. As he approaches the Laureli rock, a melody threads its way through the fog, a song so achingly beautiful it pierces his heart. He looks up to see her perched upon the cliff, her figure luminous against the night sky. Her lips move in harmony with the music that fills the air, eyes reflecting the starlight. Mesmerized, the boatman forgets the oars in his hands, his gaze locked upon the enigmatic singer. The waters grow turbulent, but he does not notice the swirling eddies pulling his vessel toward the jagged rocks. The Lorelei song intensifies, a siren's lullaby that drowns out the roar of the river. With a sudden crash, the boat is shattered against the stones, the man thrown into the icy embrace of the Rhine. As he sinks beneath the surface, the last thing he sees is the Lorelei's sorrowful smile, a visage of both compassion and cruelty. She watches as the river claims another victim, bound by a curse that perpetuates her own despair. To this day, travelers along the Rhine speak in hushed tones of the Lorelei. On quiet nights when the moon is full and the river runs deep, some claim to hear her song drifting over the water, a haunting melody that stirs the soul and beckons the unwary toward their doom. The Sirens of the South Pacific, Polynesia. Now let us journey to the remote islands of the South Pacific, where the ocean stretches endlessly and the line between reality and myth blurs beneath the tropical sun. Among these islands, tales are told of beings known as the Taniwa, siren-like creatures who guard the depths and passageways of the sea. In the village of a small island, fishermen warn their children of the dangers that lurk beyond the reef. They speak of the Vatea, a shape-shifting entity that can appear as a dolphin, a shark, or, most alluringly, a breathtaking woman with eyes as deep as the ocean itself. One such story tells of a young man named Kaleo, whose curiosity drew him beyond the safety of the lagoon. Under the veil of night he ventured out in his canoe, the water gleaming like obsidian glass beneath a canopy of stars. As he paddled further from shore, a soft humming reached his ears, a melody that seemed to rise from the depths below. Mesmerized, Kaleo peered over the side of his canoe, and there she was, a woman of unearthly beauty, her skin shimmering like pearls, hair floating around her like a halo. She smiled up at him, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Join me," she whispered, her voice melding with the song of the waves. "Discover the wonders that lie beneath." Without thought, Kaleo reached out, his fingers brushing the water. In an instant, her delicate hand grasped his wrist with a grip as strong as the ocean's pull. Her form began to shift, eyes darkening, teeth sharpening into rows of glistening points. Realizing too late, Kaleo struggled as the Taniwa pulled him into the depths. The sea roiled above them, swallowing his screams. The next morning, his canoe washed ashore, empty, a silent testament to the perils of heeding the siren's call. Villagers found the canoe and knew the fate that had befallen Kaleo. They mourned, but also whispered words of caution, reinforcing the age-old warnings. The ocean, beautiful yet treacherous, harbored secrets meant to remain undisturbed. Even now, islanders tell tales of the Taniwa to those who dare venture too close to the unknown. On nights when the sea is calm and the air is thick with possibility, the haunting songs can be heard, a reminder that some temptations lead only to darkness. The Rusalki of Slavic mythology. Our next tale takes us to the mist-laden forests and mirror-like lakes of Eastern Europe, where the veil between the living and the spirit world is said to be perilously thin. Here dwell the Rusalki, spirits of young women who met tragic ends in or near bodies of water. In a small village nestled among the birch trees, whispers circulate about a particular lake where few dare to tread after sunset. It is said that a beautiful maiden haunts its shores, her laughter carrying on the wind, both inviting and foreboding. One evening, a traveler named Dmitri passed through the village, ignoring the villagers' warnings. Drawn by the allure of the untouched wilderness, he set up camp near the lake's edge. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the forest grew still, the only sound the gentle lapping of water against the shore. As Dmitri gazed into the lake's depths, a ripple disturbed the surface. Emerging from the water was a woman of unearthly beauty, her hair dark and flowing like a river of shadows, skin pale as the moonlight. She smiled, beckoning him closer. "Who are you?" Dmitri called out entranced. "Come," she whispered, her voice like the rustling of leaves. "Join me and I'll show you wonders beyond your wildest dreams." Without hesitation, he waded into the water, the cold biting at his skin. The Rusalki's eyes shimmered with a strange light as she took his hand, but as he drew nearer, her grip tightened, nails biting into his flesh. Her smile twisted into a sinister grin, revealing teeth sharp as daggers. Too late, Dmitri realized the danger. He struggled, but her strength was beyond mortal means. With a swift pull, she dragged him beneath the surface. The water churned briefly before returning to its mirror-like calm. The next day, villagers found Dmitri's belongings on the shore, but of the traveler there was no sign. They knew the Rusalki had claimed another soul, feeding off the life force of the unwary to ease their own eternal sorrow. These spirits, born of betrayal and heartbreak, could only find solace in sharing their pain with others. To this day, the Rusalki are said to haunt lakes and rivers, especially during the nights of the full moon. Their songs are both beautiful and deadly, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurk where the natural and supernatural worlds entwine. The Siren of Cape Horn, Chile. Far to the south, where the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans collide in a tumultuous dance, lies Cape Horn, the southernmost tip of Chile, a place of rugged beauty and unforgiving seas. The waters here are a graveyard of ships where storms can brew without warning and waves rise like mountains. It was in these perilous waters in the year 2017 that a seasoned fisherman named Miguel encountered something that would forever alter his understanding of the sea. Miguel had fished these waters for decades, his weathered hands and lined face testament to a life spent battling the elements. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, painting the sky with hues of crimson and gold, he set out alone in his small but sturdy boat. The sea was unusually calm, the surface smooth as glass, reflecting the fiery sky above. As night fell, a thick fog rolled in, enveloping everything in a damp, silvery haze. Visibility dropped to mere feet, but Miguel was untroubled. He knew these waters intimately. He cast his nets and settled in to wait, the silence broken only by the gentle lapping of water against the hull. Then, faintly at first, he heard it, a melody so hauntingly beautiful it seemed otherworldly. A woman's voice singing in a language he couldn't understand, yet it stirred something deep within him. The song was sorrowful and seductive, weaving through the fog like a living thing. Mesmerized, Miguel scanned the misty sea. There, just beyond the edge of his boat's lantern light, he saw a figure, a woman, her long dark hair cascading over her shoulders, floating effortlessly atop the water. Her skin glowed with an ethereal light, and her eyes, dark and fathomless, met his. "Quién eres?" he called out. "Who are you?" She continued to sing, her lips forming words that beckoned him closer. Without realizing it, Miguel found himself leaning over the side of the boat, drawn by an irresistible force. The fog swirled around them, isolating them from the rest of the world. Suddenly, the woman reached out a slender hand, her fingers delicate and pale. "Ben," she whispered, "come." A sharp jolt of fear snapped Miguel from his trance. He pulled back just as her fingertips grazed the sleeve of his jacket. Her expression changed, eyes narrowing, the once beautiful face contorting with rage. The melodic song twisted into a shriek that pierced the night. At that moment, the sea beneath him began to churn violently. Waves rose without warning, tossing his boat like a toy. The sky unleashed a torrent of rain, and thunder cracked overhead. Miguel fought to regain control of his vessel, his heart pounding in his chest. The woman's form dissolved into the mist, but her vengeful cries echoed around him. It was as if the sea itself sought to consume him. For hours he battled the storm, muscles aching, every moment a struggle for survival. When dawn finally broke, the storm subsided as quickly as it had begun. Exhausted and shaken, Miguel guided his battered boat back to port. As he stepped onto solid ground, he swore he heard a faint echo of that haunting song carried on the wind. Word of his encounter spread through the fishing community. Some dismissed it as a sailor's tale, but the elders exchanged knowing glances. They spoke of the Siren of Cape Horn, a spirit of the sea who lured men to their deaths, especially those who ventured too confidently into her domain. Miguel never returned to those waters alone. The memory of her eyes, the chilling transformation of her song, haunted his dreams. He knew, as did others who had glimpsed the siren, that some mysteries of the deep were better left undisturbed. The mysterious singing in the Baltic Sea, Sweden. Half a world away, in the cold embrace of the Baltic Sea, lies a place where the waters are dark and secrets run deep. In 2020, a team of experienced divers set out to explore a shipwreck rumored to rest on the seabed off the coast of Sweden. The group was led by Eric, a seasoned diver with a passion for uncovering the past. The day was clear, the sea calm but frigid. As they descended into the depths, the world above faded away, replaced by an otherworldly landscape of shadows and silence. The wreck loomed ahead, a ghostly silhouette emerging from the gloom. As they began their exploration, a strange sound reached their ears through the muffled underwater silence, a faint melodious singing. At first, they thought it was the creaking of the ship's remains or the groan of shifting currents, but the sound grew clearer, more distinct, threading its way through the water like a siren's call. Eric paused, signaling to his team. "Do you hear that?" His voice crackled through the communication system, tinged with unease. "Yes," came the replies, hushed and uncertain. The melody was hauntingly beautiful, a woman's voice singing in tones that seemed to vibrate within their very bones. It shouldn't have been possible. Sound doesn't carry like that underwater, and certainly not in such a way that words could be discerned. Yet, here it was, enveloping them. Drawn by the ethereal song, Eric felt an inexplicable urge to venture deeper, away from the safety of the group. He kicked his fins, propelling himself toward the sound source. The water around him grew colder, and the light from above dimmed. "Eric, where are you going?" one of his team members called out. He didn't respond, his gaze fixed ahead. Then, just at the edge of visibility, he saw her, a figure hovering in the water, cloaked in shadows. Her eyes caught the faint light, reflecting it back like a predator's glare. "Eric, stop," another voice urged, laced with panic. But he was enthralled, reaching out as if in a dream. The figure moved closer, and for a fleeting moment, he glimpsed her face, beautiful yet unnerving, with a smile that didn't reach her cold eyes. Suddenly, a strong hand grabbed his shoulder, yanking him back. It was Lars, his closest friend and fellow diver. "We have to go, now!" Shaken, Eric snapped out of his trance. He looked around. The figure was gone, the singing silenced. A deep sense of dread settled over him as he realized how far he'd strayed. Together they began their ascent, the oppressive weight of the water seeming to cling to them. Breaking the surface, they gasped for air, the chill of the Baltic wind biting their exposed skin. Back on the boat, the team exchanged uneasy glances. None of them could explain what they'd heard or seen. Over the following days, Eric was plagued by nightmares, a song echoing in the darkness, a face emerging from the shadows, beckoning him back to the depths. He couldn't shake the feeling that something had marked him, that the Baltic Sea held a secret that was best left undisturbed. Locals, upon hearing their story, spoke in hushed tones of the Havsfrun, the Sea Lady, a being from Swedish folklore said to lure sailors and fishermen to a watery grave with her enchanting voice. Skeptics dismissed as nitrogen narcosis or collective hallucination, but those who knew the sea's capricious nature weren't so quick to judge. Eric never dived in the Baltic again. The haunting melody remained with him, a chilling reminder of how easily one could be led astray by the unknown. The Haunting of a Fisherman in the Philippines. In the sun-soaked archipelago of the Philippines, where the waters are as clear as crystal and teeming with life, fishermen have passed down stories of the Serena, a sea spirit both captivating and perilous. One such tale is that of Ramon, a humble fisherman from a small coastal village. Ramon was known for his late-night fishing trips, venturing out when the sea was calm and the stars glittered like diamonds overhead. He cherished the solitude, the quiet lapping of waves against his boat, and the abundance of fish that could be caught under the cloak of darkness. One night, as he cast his net, he heard a soft singing drifting across the water. It was faint, almost indistinguishable from the sea's natural symphony. Curious, he paused, listening intently. The melody was unlike anything he'd heard before, sweet, melancholic, and alluring. He scanned the horizon but saw nothing beyond the gentle undulations of the sea. Shrugging it off, he continued his work. But the singing persisted, growing slightly louder, more insistent. It seemed to encircle him, coming from all directions. "Who's there?" Ramon called out, his voice wavering. Silence answered, followed by a ripple in the water nearby. He leaned over the side of his boat, peering into the depths. For a moment he thought he saw a shadow pass beneath the surface, a flicker of movement too large to be a fish. Unease settled in his gut. He decided it was time to head back. As he started to row, the singing resumed, this time closer. He glanced over his shoulder and froze. Swimming alongside his boat was a woman, her long black hair flowing behind her, eyes dark and luminescent in the starlight. "Good evening," she whispered, her voice carrying effortlessly over the sound of the water. Ramon's mouth went dry. "What are you doing out here?" She smiled enigmatically. "I was drawn by your presence, such a lonely soul on the vast ocean." He swallowed hard, instinct screaming at him to leave. "It's late. You shouldn't be swimming alone." Her laughter was like the tinkling of delicate bells. "Nor should you be fishing alone." Before he could respond, she began to sing once more, the melody wrapping around him like a physical force. His hands slackened on the oars, his gaze locked on hers. The world narrowed to just the two of them. "Come closer," she beckoned. He found himself leaning toward her, the edge of the boat pressing into his ribs. Just as he was about to tip over, a sudden splash startled him. A school of fish erupted from the water nearby, breaking the spell. Seizing the moment, Ramon snapped back to reality. He grabbed the oars and rowed with all his might, the woman's song transforming into a shriek of anger behind him. The shore never seemed so far away. His muscles burned, heart pounding in his chest. As he reached the shallows, he dared to look back. The woman was gone, but the water rippled unnaturally, as if disturbed by an unseen force. Breathless, he stumbled onto the beach. Villagers who heard the commotion rushed to his aid. Between gasps, he recounted his encounter. The elders exchanged grave looks. "You have been marked by the Serena," one said. "She does not like to be denied." Fearing for his safety, Ramon heeded their advice and avoided the sea at night. Yet, the Serena was not easily dissuaded. For several nights, he heard her song drifting through the village, beckoning him. Shadows moved at the edge of his vision, and strange footprints appeared near his home. Desperate, he sought the help of a local shaman who performed rituals to protect him. Gradually, the haunting ceased, but Ramon was forever changed. The sea, once his ally, now held a sinister undertone. He shared his story as a warning that some songs, no matter how beautiful, are meant to lure the unwary to their doom, and that the legends of the Serena are not just tales to frighten children, but reminders of the unseen forces that dwell just beyond our understanding. The Sirens of the Caribbean. The Caribbean Sea, with its turquoise waters and idyllic islands, is often thought of as a paradise. But beneath its serene surface lies a history steeped in mystery and superstition. Among sailors and locals alike, stories persist of La Sirene, the sea maiden who calls men to their fate with a voice as captivating as the sea itself. In 2019, a group of sailors set out on a voyage from the Bahamas to Bermuda, navigating through the infamous Bermuda Triangle. Among them was a man named Marcus, an experienced sailor with a thirst for adventure. The journey was smooth for the first few days. The crew enjoyed the balmy weather and calm seas. One night, as they sailed under a canopy of stars, Marcus took the helm for the midnight watch. The rest of the crew retired below deck, leaving him alone with the gentle rhythm of the waves. Around the witching hour, a soft melody drifted over the water, a song so enchanting it seemed to emanate from the sea itself. Marcus scanned the horizon but saw nothing. The song grew louder, more insistent, filled with both longing and joy. Entranced, he leaned over the rail, searching for the source. The water below shimmered, and from the depths emerged a figure unlike any he'd ever seen. She had the upper body of a woman, with skin that glowed softly in the moonlight, and hair that flowed around her like dark silk. Her lower body tapered into a shimmering tail, scales reflecting a kaleidoscope of colors. She gazed up at him with eyes that held the depths of the ocean. "Come to me," she whispered, her lips barely moving, yet her voice clear over the ambient sounds. Marcus felt an overwhelming desire to join her, to dive into the water and leave everything behind. He climbed onto the rail, poised to leap. At that moment, a hand grabbed his shoulder, yanking him back. It was Daniel, one of his crewmates. "What the hell are you doing?" Daniel shouted, his eyes wide with fear. Startled, Marcus blinked. The figure in the water was gone, the sea once again calm and empty. Confused and disoriented, he struggled to explain. I saw her. She was right there." Daniel shook his head. "I heard voices and came to check. You were about to jump overboard." The commotion woke the rest of the crew. As they gathered on deck, Marcus recounted his experience. Skepticism mixed with concern, but one of the older sailors grew pale. "You've seen La Sirene," he said gravely. "Many have fallen for her allure, and few have lived to tell the tale." Tension gripped the crew. Over the next few days, strange occurrences plagued the ship. Equipment malfunctioned without explanation. Whispers echoed in the corridors below deck, and at night, the haunting melody returned, seeping into their dreams. One evening, another sailor claimed to see the same figure beckoning from the waves. Fear and paranoia took hold. They altered their course, desperate to escape the unseen force targeting them. As they neared Bermuda, the phenomena ceased. Relief washed over the crew, but the experience left an indelible mark. Marcus, once eager for adventure, found himself unsettled by the sea that had always been his home. Locals in Bermuda listened to their story with a mix of fascination and resignation. "The sea has its spirits," one old fisherman said. "La Sirene guards these waters. Those who see her are chosen, but whether for fortune or folly is not for us to know." The sailors completed their journey, but parted ways soon after, the shared ordeal too heavy a burden. Marcus left the sea for good, haunted by memories of a voice that promised wonder but nearly led him to oblivion. These modern tales serve as a chilling reminder that the legends of sirens are not confined to ancient myth. Even in our age of technology and reason, there are forces that elude explanation, mysteries that lurk in the deep, waiting for those who dare to venture too close. So, as we sit here enveloped by the comforting glow of the fire, let us remember the allure of the unknown carries both beauty and peril. Should you ever find yourself on the water's edge and hear a song that stirs your very soul, think twice before you follow its call, for some melodies are not meant for mortal ears, and some paths lead only to darkness. Thank you for joining me on this eerie journey into the world of sirens and their haunting allure. These legends remind us that some mysteries of the water, those chilling voices in the night, those shadows in the mist, are as timeless as the waves themselves. Whether real or legend, the stories of sirens leave us with a sense of wonder and dread, a reminder of how thin the line can be between the known and the unknown. If you enjoyed these tales, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join Char TV. Again, we're so close to reaching 1,000 subscribers, and each one of you who joins brings us closer to uncovering more mysteries together. This is just the beginning, and there's so much more to explore. So stay tuned, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next deep dive into the unknown.